everyone, and welcome. This evening marks our first return back to our meeting, and my fingers are crossed that eventually we'll get to do this in person, and that is a strong possibility. But we wanted to make sure we at least got this meeting on the books and to get our work going. My name is Leticia Salinas, and I serve as the Assistant Superintendent of Instructional Services, and I will be chairing this task force to ensure that we get our work on its way, and certainly ensure that we're all convened and answering our questions and making some sound recommendations to our trustees. And as I'm looking at our agenda, I'm going to post it again in the chat just to keep refreshing it. But we have a couple of goals for tonight. But before we get started, and I know folks will join us shortly, let's take a couple of minutes to just introduce ourselves. And if you could say what program you're representing. And I know some of our principals are probably, I don't actually know, I don't see Mr. Jose here from Blake Cal, but just speaking to who we're representing, and then we'll also be able to take some notes. I'll have Dr. Rocha to keep some notes for me as it relates to membership that we still have to fill. I do want to share that President of FUTA, Ms. Brandon Dorsey, is in making sure that we have enough teacher representatives, and she also will be joining us. If she doesn't make it tonight, I know she will be a member of this group as well. So looking at my Hollywood squares up here, those of you that are old enough to remember the old Hollywood squares, I'm going to start with our trustee and our president, Sweeney. If you want to say a little bit, introduce yourselves, and then we'll go to the next person.
Thank you very much. My name is Larry Sweeney, and I am on the Board of Trustees.
Next, I see Mr. Koo.
Hi, I'm Keith Koo. I have had a child in the program since the Pioneer class, and I have a current 6th grader at Azaveda. I've been a trustee before. This is my 2nd term as a trustee for CIPCF.
Thank you. And Ms. Quintana.
I am Victoria Quintana. I am a dual immersion teacher, Spanish dual immersion at Grimmer.
Welcome. Ms. Diamond.
Hi there, I'm Carol Diamond, principal at Azaveda Elementary School, representing Mandarin Immersion.
And Ms. Avery.
Hello, my name is Melissa Avery, and I am a parent representative for Blake Cal. I have been on for Blake Cal for the Spanish dual immersion program. I have been on the task force since the creation of the task force many years ago. Yeah, and I have 3 children in the program, 6th, 4th, and in 1st grade.
Thank you. And Mr. Lee.
Hi, my name is Brian Lee. I'm a parent from the Mandarin Immersion Program. I have a child in 6th grade at Azaveda. And last year, last school year, I was a alternate parent representative, and this year I'm here.
Welcome. Ms. Nye.
Hi, I'm Judy Nye. I'm the principal at Grimmer Elementary Spanish Immersion Program. This is my 12th year with the program at Grimmer.
Thank you. Ms. Camacho.
Good evening. Buenas noches. My name is Patricia Camacho. I'm a parent at Vallejo Mill. I have 2 kids in the Spanish dual immersion in 2nd and 1st grade. And this is my 2.5 years in the task force.
Thank you. Ms. Feng.
Hi, good evening. My name is Mei Fang. I'm the 1st grade Mandarin immersion teacher. I also have 2 daughters in MIP as well.
Wonderful. And Ms. Kin. She's having some technical difficulties. Let's see. Did I miss anyone? And then as soon as she's back on, she can introduce herself. I don't think so. Okay, perfect. All right. So moving on with our agenda. I wanted to share a little bit about really what our work is and also do some planning around that. And so I know that our board is extremely committed to ensuring that our immersion programs not only sustain, but really grow and really demonstrate the abilities of our students and really the commitment that our district has to biliteracy. Not every district can say that they have the backing and the support of our trustees. And so I do want to acknowledge that and really celebrate that commitment because it takes a lot. And I think in the era, those of us that have been around seeing the dismantling of bilingual programs historically in the state of California, not every district brought them back. And so kudos to Fremont and to trustees that are committed and staff. And we've heard from our longstanding principals and certainly our teachers and families that invested in it. And so it's coming from a good place. And so I do want to recognize and celebrate that. Oh, Kate, is Katie back? I thought I saw the screen. No, she's not, sorry. And so from my perspective, really the goal of our work is to ensure that we have a facility that is not only adequate, but really is enough to sustain our program and really grow our programs. We have had, unfortunately, some really quick stop gaps where we knew that we had to recognize the growth of the Mandarin immersion program. And so there was the sister school strand that started this year at Blake Howe. But really, our board and our commitment has seen that as a short-term goal and a short-term stopgap. But we also recognize that the ultimate goal is to unify the program. The same can be said for our Spanish immersion program. The commitment is there and the action was there. The unfortunate part was the facilities were not where we needed them to be, and we did not have the opportunity to really fulfill that commitment to have it all at one site. So that now really becomes our work to unify our program for the Spanish immersion. So that is really what our work is going to be, with us as a recommending body to the trustees who will do the ultimate decision around where we house our programs. We also know that out there is also, we have to think about the junior high, and we know that Hopkins is certainly on our mind as to the capacity of Hopkins. And so that certainly is one of the things we will more than likely look at. But first and foremost, it's really doing that planning around the unification of the Spanish immersion program and the Mandarin immersion program. And I see that Ms. Dorsey joined us, and Katie's also back. Katie, do you want to introduce yourself now? And then we'll go to Ms. Dorsey.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Ching. I'm Mandarin immersion teacher at Azaveda 5th grade. So I'm representing my upper grade level teachers tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Dorsey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brandon Dorsey. I am the president of the Fremont Unified District Teachers Association. Sorry, I was picking my son up from basketball and I got home. I didn't want to Zoom from the car, but I'm just happy to be here.
Welcome. Thank you. So, and then I also want to recognize, Dr. Rocha and her work. She's back. She was gone for a bit, having a wonderful, beautiful baby. And so she's back to support our work, and certainly has some of the historical context as well. But I wanted to just kind of put that on the table and know that we will continue to revisit this. And I thought it was important to certainly share the commitment of the district and really recognize the commitment of our board. So what I wanted to, and I'm not sure if President Sweeney, if you wanted to say anything about that.
No, I know that there was a lot of frustration towards the end of last year, and the board is definitely committed to listening to what this panel puts together. And I think the experience of last year has strengthened the resolve of all the participants to be more focused, maybe to pick fewer objectives and see if we can attain those objectives and make those recommendations.
Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. Well said. So I wanted to first talk about seeing if we can come to a consensus. I know we don't have our Spanish immersion teachers this evening. Oh, just Ms. Quintana, you're going to really go. And your colleague, I know, has a back to school night tonight, but I wanted to hear from all of you. I will say that not from everyone, but one of the things that I did hear towards the end of last year was that there was the possibility of exploring of dividing up the task force into certainly with the same objective of having a recommendation to the board for unification and for facilities location. But the idea that perhaps we would separate this group into MIP and SDI to have two separate groups. And I wanted to kind of have this as an open forum, hear some pros and cons. I think there's pros and cons to both. And just kind of have an open dialogue around that and seeing if we can come to a consensus on that next step. Would anybody like to start and just have some thoughts around that?
Can I say something?
Yes.
Yeah, it just seems to make sense to me that we need to coordinate the effort with SDI. We're trying to pursue the same goal, which is to find a permanent location, permanent sites for our locations, and that will require a lot of coordination between the two programs. And for example, Bringhurst is a potential possibility, I assume, and only one of us could go there. So it doesn't seem to make sense that we have two task force without any coordination. So I will vote for keeping the task force together.
Thank you for that. Would anybody else like to add another perspective or validate that perspective? President Sweeney.
You can call me Larry. I think it's a great idea to keep it all together. That way, everybody is hearing the same information from the same sources at the same time. Nothing gets lost in translation. Everybody has a chance to see what is being offered to the table, and I think it removes any type of anxiety that different groups might be getting different information. Even though that won't happen, to be completely transparent and accountable seems to save the day most of the time.
Thank you for that. Anybody else?
I would echo the same sentiment that the first thought that comes to mind is that we work together, because if we separate, then there's a potential to be working towards the same goal, but maybe like working against each other instead of together sometimes. And we definitely don't want that kind of environment within the immersion community. So I would rather that we are working together and supporting each other in one group.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, historically, we've always been together in the way of two separate programs. So even with the junior high expansion that I was on the task force for as well. So I don't see why we wouldn't keep it together unless there's some efficiencies, but I'm in favor of keeping it together.
Thank you. So if there are no further comments on that, can we just come to consensus by just a nod of the head that we will continue as one group? Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much. Great. Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to go to the calendaring of dates. And so I want to preface this by Dr. Rocha and I were looking at, it's a very busy place, Fremont Unified, and we have a lot of committees and obligations. And certainly, we heard from Ms. Dorsey, you all as parents have other hats you wear to pick up your children from activities. And so as we were looking at the calendar, it appeared that Tuesdays might be a possibility for all of us. I know that Larry is not on the wellness committee, and typically the wellness committee takes place on Tuesdays. And I don't think anyone else here is on the wellness committee as a district-wide committee. And so we were looking at the possibility of either the first Tuesday of the month or the second Tuesday of the month as being an option for us to meet. And I also want to let you know that as I started to look at this, my plan And certainly in agreement with our superintendent and our president of the board, is to look at making a recommendation to the board at a January meeting. I'm not sure yet if it would be the first January meeting or the second January meeting. And this is to say, if we need more meetings in between, that will happen. So please know that. But I thought it was important for us to backwards map a goal of when we hope to present this to the board. So we have that as an action with enough time so that families know, so that facilities know, so that everyone is really in the loop on it. So with that said, if you open up the agenda that I put in there, there are some dates there. And I see as you're peeking at the agenda, and I'll repost it in the notes, I see Judy, go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing with having it on Tuesdays is that's the night for elementary schools to have their meetings. So potentially every one of us in elementary might not make at certain meetings, but just wanted everybody to know that.
Okay. And is there, I know there, and the same for me, I know I have another commitment as well, but we're hoping that if we're saying it's 3 meetings before January, that gives us enough leverage time to hopefully ensure we have some coverage.
Leticia, it says I do not have access to the agenda.
Oops, let me check that. Sorry about that. You should. Is anyone else that's a non-FUSD employee having trouble opening it?
Me too.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay, let me go ahead and do that. Actually, Christy, are you able to get in there and thank you?
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so what as she's working on that, what I have as the first Tuesday of the month is October 5th, November 2nd, December 7th. Or the second Tuesday of the month is October 12th, November 9th, December 14th. So right now, those are the 3 options, or the 3 dates, the first Tuesday of the month or the second Tuesday of the month. Again, with the idea that the January board meeting, we would bring a recommendation. And the January board meetings, right now there's 2 dates. There's a January 12th board meeting and a January 26th board meeting.
So Selena, I think the first Tuesday of every month is the CIPCF meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian.
Is it?
That's correct. But I think we can work around it. I mean, having this meeting is more important, at least to me.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So let me give you a second to check your calendars right now, and then let's talk about that. Thank you, Christy, for opening up the agenda. Okay, so as you're looking at your calendars, is there a preference for either the first Tuesday of the month or the second Tuesday of the month?
I don't have a preference.
Okay.
Either's fine with me.
I'm fine with either as well.
Wonderful. Okay. No preference. Good. Okay. Well, let's go with I believe in getting it done sooner than later, so it gives us more time in the month. So let's go with the first Tuesday of the month. So that means we will meet, our next meeting will be October 5th, which is nice because it's closer in time. We don't have to wait as much. And then the next meeting will be November 2nd and then December 7th. And what I want to share is that there will be that caveat that certainly our goal is that January presentation, but as we start to see as things are developing, if we need more time or more information, we can certainly as a committee make a decision to add some more time or another date. Okay, so with no further ado, and I will send those meeting dates out to all of you later on this evening, is talking about drafting the agenda for the next meeting. So I think it'll be extremely important that we all come to consensus and draft out the agenda at the end of each meeting. And with that said, I think a lot of you are all returning, so we all kind of know where we left off, but I think at the same time, there may be new information that's needed, and we can start to really form that agenda. So I had some ideas, but I want you to take a look on the agenda of resources that may be needed for this next meeting. But I also want to take some time to hear from all of you as to maybe what you felt you would have had more information about last year, that we can certainly strive and build for the agenda for the next time. So I'll open it up to all of you.
I'm curious.
Really quick, I don't know where this should go on the agenda, but now that Shannon has moved off and Brian has taken the permanent role, I believe that MIP, I don't know the SDI situation, but we would need to pick an alternate for this task force.
I have that information so we can notify the next person.
Perfect.
Great.
And can I check for the SDI? Do we just need teacher reps, ensuring our teacher reps, correct? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. And thank you, Ms. Camacho and Ms. Avery. They're sticking it out with us. So that's great. So that was so wonderful. Thank you for that. So let's.
Earlier you were talking about, you've mentioned like the January board meeting a couple of times. And I'm just kind of curious, like what is it that we want to be doing by then? Because I think that would affect how we plan out our agendas.
Yes. So for the January board meeting, my hope is that we're able to have a recommendation to the board for a unification site for the programs, for both programs. That's what we would be presenting at that point.
Will they include the middle school path?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more about that. So, and I'll be candid, I don't have enough information. That might be something we start to look at the next meeting, just as to, and some of you may know more better than I as to when we're reaching capacity and what that all is like. But I would hope we could do something around that. I think that would give a lot of families peace of mind. But first and foremost, it'll be the elementary programs. But yes, that would be my hope, to be able to give some kind of a recommendation around Hopkins. But I also want to be, I want to make it a little bit secondary, because I don't know what the time constraint we have there. I have heard that the clock is ticking and we need to make a decision because they're reaching their capacity in the coming year or two. But I can bring, that can be part of our agenda next time we meet.
So two comments. One is why would we wait to the January board meeting if we can get the work done sooner? So that's one. And then two, having been a member of the junior high task force originally and contemplating the move to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and only for the 2 strands of Spanish and the 2 strands of Mandarin, not the expansion strands, it was contemplated that there was more than enough space, even with the construction. So this is still an unanswered question that we asked last year about what has significantly changed in the demographic that would cause us to no longer have the appropriate space.
Okay, so to answer your first question, if we can do it sooner, fantastic. And honestly, I didn't want to put together, hey, let's wrap this up, button it up in 2 meetings. If we're making some wonderful progress in these next 2 meetings, I would love to take this to the board sooner. But our deadline, I guess in my head, because I'm kind of looking at the big picture, as I'm sure our president looks at the big picture as well, is that we're just trying to make sure that we're prioritizing. So yes, if we can get this sooner, absolutely, we can take this to the board sooner. So what I'm noting here is the question around Hopkins and capacity. Okay. So
I thought that was a little bit more of a concern now, because from what I remember was that once the transition from the 6, 7, 8 to Hopkins, that there was not going to be enough room for SDI and Mandarin at Hopkins that was my understanding, that there was not going to be any room for both immersion programs at Hopkins once the expansion had been made. So in my mind, that was more urgent than the unification at this point, because the unification is just, I mean, we're going to just stay the way we are for the next year or 2. So from my understanding, there was going to be no room for MIP or SDI. So that's where I'm coming from, is like, to me, the urgency was more of the Hopkins, but that was on the information that I remember from a long time ago. I don't know what has changed, or what the status of Hopkins
Yeah.
is, but that was my understanding.
Right. So maybe, and I see Kelly, you have your hand up, but before you speak, I'm wondering, because I don't want to unpack it now without all the facts before us. So I'm prioritizing that so we can definitely talk about this at the next meeting. And just the capacity, and I've got some notes. And I'm glad, thank you, Kelly, for joining us. I know you had another meeting as well, but you're taking notes as well as to what we can bring back. And do you want to just bring back the full information the next time we meet?
Sure. What I was going to speak to is that we're in the process now of updating this school year's capacity reports. So for me to say, oh yeah, we've got our capacity numbers for the school year, I would not be able to share that information with you guys right now. We're anticipating having those done within the month of October. And so we'll be able to then, really look and see what our capacity is based on our current enrollment. And as far as Hopkins goes, I will be prepared to speak to that at the next meeting, but my memory serves me that we were not able to accommodate the second strand. And so, but I will have verification and information on that. So
Just
that's
as a
all I was
reminder,
going to share.
we've expanded to 4 strands now, so we already have an existing 2 strands, and that's today's situation at Hopkins. It's 2 strands already. So
Correct. Yeah.
just historical. I mean, Corey decided to consolidate into 1 super class, but it's no different than it is now. The expansion is the new variable, but in terms of the existing 2 strands fully populated K through 6, and then contemplating 6th, 7th, and 8th, there's been no change. It's the same population. So the only new variable is the addition of the 2 strands, which will impact Hopkins either in 4 or 5 years, depending on K through 5 or K through 6.
Correct. Yeah, that's my understanding. But we've got notes, and I think back to Melissa's point, we will definitely add this to our agenda. Victoria, go ahead.
I know that we're
Oh,
talking.
also, are we recording these sessions as we did before?
I will have to check with Mr. Zamora. We are live streaming them. I don't know if they're being recorded.
Okay, this is being live streamed.
Oh, he said yes. Yeah,
Okay,
they're being
thank you.
recorded. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Victoria.
Just that we're talking more about junior high, and I don't think we have junior high representation on this task force. I'm just curious, has anyone reached out to any of the junior high teachers or parents about that? And is that something that people feel that we need?
Yeah, let me, again, this is going back to the facilities, and that's certainly a question that I'll note to see if we can definitely look at it. But let's explore what we have now and see what the impact will be. I want to make sure, first and foremost, I'm hearing about, there's an urgency for Hopkins and what that will be, but I'm going back to the unification and making sure that we're staying true to that also. So, but thank you. That's a good point. I will look at that.
And just as a side note, technically, because I don't know the others, Brian and myself each have a 6th grader at Azaveda, who in the other scheme would be, a 6th grader in a middle school or next year 7th and 8th. So we're probably adequately prepared to handle a Hopkins question. Task force.
Yeah, I'm in the same situation too. I have a 6th grader, so it does affect all the decision whether we will stay in the program or not, and where it would go if there's no place at Hopkins.
Right, and maybe what we'll look at is I'll speak with Brandon, and maybe it is a teacher rep that we add for junior high or Corey, and just depending on what his bandwidth is as well, because I don't want to spring this on him, but we may be able to capture it with Brandon here and with a teacher rep.
Thank you for sharing that, parents. I appreciate that too.
So I have a quick question just for clarification. Are we then, I guess the first question regarding the capacity reports, are those going to be, I know Kelly mentioned that they might not be fully ready for our October meeting, or will they be? Because what happened last year was, those numbers kept changing all the times, and the conversation just we having to restart the conversation over and over with them being so dynamic. So I want an answer to that first. And then second is, are we focusing on unification at the same sites as we've discussed before, or are we considering new sites?
That's why we need to look at the capacity reports and just see if things have changed. So from my perspective, we're looking at it all again. And I think that's what I had heard from parents at the end of last year. Knowing that some things haven't changed, I also don't want to pretend that things have changed. We know where there's space. I think Brian brought it up. We know Lila's out there, and that's certainly on the table to look at. But yes, it'll be important to hear about the capacity reports. So Kelly, is there any updates you can share on that?
Not at this time. Currently, staff are in the process of updating the report for this school year. We just started receiving enrollment information from the sites last week, so it will take her a little bit of time, but we are anticipating having all of the updates completed sometime in October. So if we don't make I doubt we'll make the first meeting in October, but we definitely will be prepared with current information for the November date.
Can I add something here too, Letitia? We've got, what, 1,400 students out at Virtual Academy, so that has to be taken into consideration as well. I don't know if the capacity reports are based on what we reported at the end of last year, or if they take into consideration that Virtual Academy. That's a lot of kids.
Yeah, and that's another concern, because the language immersion kids weren't considered in the Virtual Academy. So those that opted out and wish to re-enter. So we need a good tracking system for those students wishing to come. And similarly, we have to start talking to parents again about us having to reconvene and beginning to debate this unification again. And we are going to have those parents that are not going to want to opt back in, and we are going to have parents that are going to want to opt out, based on what we decide. So I have to echo the same concern for accounting for those virtual students.
So know that our class allocations did not change. And so I think the capacity reports will be fine. We have some very small classes out there, I'll be candid. And so we did not close those, because if you, and I'm bird walking a little bit, but with the Virtual Academy, parents have the right to opt back into in-person instruction, and the district must place them within 5 days. So a big thank you to our board and certainly our teachers union and all the folks that were partners in this, to ensuring we have the capacity to have students come back and all of that. So I think we should be fine with that. But Kelly's going to work on that and seeing what she has. What would we need for next time? Is there any other report that you recall from last time that will be important? Like, one of the things that I'm thinking about is knowing a little bit about the capacity of Lila Bringhurst might be an information that we can bring forward for the next meeting. Is there anything else that's out there that you would want, or that you recall from last time?
I'll definitely include that.
Can I just say that, I think we need the enrollment, the capacity report, the enrollment projection for both elementary and middle school. And also, I just want to emphasize that we need the reports sooner rather than later, as soon as possible, really. The reason is because, a big element that was missing in last year's task force was that the parents never had a chance. When the task force decided when the staff decided to make a recommendation, the parents literally had days to discuss it with the parents, and as a result, there were a lot of unnecessary conflict, and it was very difficult to garner support for those recommendations. So if the goal is to give the board a recommendation in January, really we need to finalize the recommendation, in my mind, in November, so that parents at least the parent volunteers on this task force at least have an opportunity to have meaningful participation, communication outreach effort with our impacted communities. So that didn't leave a lot of time. We have 1 or 2 meetings to finalize the choices. That's what I'm trying to say.
Larry?
I just wanted to add that we can always, if we get the report, let's say on October 15th, you certainly could edit it and then have it distributed to the members, so that they wouldn't have to wait, and that would be a more productive meeting. And if the membership wanted to have a special meeting for X, Y, and Z, then you could do that. That's a lot more work for you, but I don't want anyone to start off in a panic. There's always a way to figure all this out.
Absolutely. And yes, we would be definitely committed to getting that into your hands before the meeting or as soon as it's available, and then we could schedule something. An idea that's out there that I've heard is also all of you as representatives. Something we could look at is also a survey. And if it's a tool that we can co-construct or have some ideas around at the next time that can be sent out, we can definitely support you all with that so that we have input from the broader SDI and MIP community. And that actually helps all of you as the representatives, because I feel like it is a lot to put on your shoulders. And then if the time is tight, that can be difficult as well.
So are you expecting, but do you want, I guess, the community to come up with solutions? It's just because like, this is maybe the 4th time we're going through this, and it's the same thing. When it was just the SDI, we surveyed the families, we got ideas, and then the district just gave us the options after all. So if you guys just have options, like, I really don't want to waste our parents' time, and just give us the options so we can decide on what we think is best.
Right.
Because I really don't. And Christy knows, because I've been around since the beginning. We survey the community, we get the answers, we give you our answers, and the district just still does whatever they want. So if you have options, just let us know what those options are so we can ask the community what we want, based on the information that the district has.
Right.
I mean,
So
that's just like my last plea. I was very considering stepping down, but this is like the last year that my child is gonna transition. I joined when he was in 1st grade and he's in 6th. So take that with a grain of salt of how long this has been going on. So if you have the options, let us know as soon as possible what they are, so our communities can decide what we want, rather than just, hey guys, give us some of your options. We don't know what properties you guys have. We don't know the facilities reports, you guys do. So let us know what that is so we can be more efficient with our time.
And I appreciate efficiency. So, and maybe I'm trying to please both sides. So let me be very clear. You all are representatives of your community. And so we could very much say, here's a representative community group. You all talk with your groups, you talk with other teachers, you talk with parents and all of that. And we as the district are relying on all of you representing the groups, right? It's not just, these few people, you're representing hundreds of folks. But what I'm hearing at the same time is, but wait a minute, we want time to be able to go back to the rest of the folks and have them weigh in and have them kind of start to sit with it and learn, because you all are getting more information than the other folks at home. So I think, I know what I'm hearing is that there is the possibility of surveying so that there is information that will be at our fingertips, so that you all don't have to go back and talk to small groups of folks or survey your own people. I'm trying to support that aspect of it. But at the same time, we could all make a decision here, because as I said, you're all representatives of others. So I'm trying to kind of reach that balance. So what I'm hearing is that we will wait for information from Kelly. And as we're doing the capacity reports and really truly finding out where is their space. I know right now there's space at Lila. I mean, I can tell you right now there's space at Lila, right? We all know that. But it's going to be very important for us to actually go through the process of looking at the capacity reports to come to that determination, right? But what I'm also thinking that we would do at this next meeting is really start to talk about a survey that the district can help to support by sending out, and we can have the results and we can look at that as well, so that can also inform the decision. So I'm trying to balance both right now, but please know, the district is all of us, but we don't have like a plan as to, oh, it's Lila or it's Blake Howe. That is not right. That is not right now what is planned, because you're right. Why would we have this whole committee meeting and all of that? That is not the plan. What I'm trying to find out the latest 2021 information, which is what Kelly's working on with folks. We want to know what has changed since last year, if anything, and perhaps it hasn't, but we won't know that until we see those reports. But I also want to have the opportunity to hear from others. And I think that's what I'm hearing from some of you, the opportunity to have time to revisit the information with others. So with all of that said, what I'm thinking about for the next time is I'm hearing capacity reports as soon as possible. Doesn't sound like they'll be available by October 5th, but we will email them out to all of you. And then the possibility of scheduling a check-in to look at those capacity reports. And I can do an informal poll through the email as I send it out to all of you once we get it from Kelly. I'm hearing that we have to look at perhaps the, the enrollment projection for the elementaries for the programs, but also looking at Hopkins and starting to kind of plan that out. And then I'm also looking at Lila Brinkhurst and really truly showing that to all of you, what the capacity is there. Is there something else that we would need for the next meeting that would be important for us to start to really kind of lay that foundation for the decisions that have to come up? Yes, Larry.
Thank you, Leticia. I just want to share two caveats for everyone to keep in mind as we're going forward with Lila, because it is coming up to everybody. I'm in a lot of meetings with parents and keeps coming up and up and up because we're using it right now as a stopgap to while Horner or Hopkins being finished. If we do put a school there, we would have to have all the associated support, principals and janitors and all those sorts of things. Right now, we're replacing the cost at one school at Delilah. So there's a hidden cost there, if you will, of whether it's insurance, heating, personnel, custodial, all those other sorts of things, maintenance, that would also have to be included in there. And with Lila, the deal with the developers was that they get a certain amount of set seats. So we can double check that for you. Those are reserved for the people who come from the development. So it has to be a feasible solution that we would not be, let's say we started 1, 2, both programs there, what have you, and then the intrusion of the local attendance area students would cause us to be looking for another place to put students forward. So that's just a little bit of the complexity there, and I'm sure that'll all be addressed when they get there. The other is I know the frustration of the SDI parents, and we did think we had a solution with the Carmen Melendez School. It was an excellent solution. Everything was going to be unified there. And then through discoveries beyond our control, we're not allowed to take possession of that site. So we feel the frustration, and we know everybody's gone through the not just the motions, but all the actions. But we did honestly think we had a fantastic solution, and that wasn't to be. So I just don't want anyone to think, and I know it's very frustrating to redoing things over and over and over again, but we are making progress, truly. So thank you all for doing that, and thank you, Assistant Superintendent Salinas, for leading us.
Thank you for that. And yes, so we can definitely get that information. And I know Chrissy's capturing it in the notes, just the commitment and with the developers for Lila, but also looking at what is the projected enrollment. So we will definitely look at that as well. Any other data point that you all would like for the next time?
I don't know if this is outside the scope of our task force, and I know we've shared, but and Brian can weigh in, but I think there's feedback from the Blake Howe MIP community that the quote is that they feel like stepchildren to the program. So I don't know how we fix that, but that is something that's coming up. Brian, did you want to add to that?
I don't have that much more to add, frankly, because I don't have personal knowledge. I mean, I'm sure there's growing pain every time a program starts at a new site, and part of it's maybe inevitable. But I think the concern is that there are resources and experienced teacher at Azaveda, and there's not the same at Blakeout. There's one concern. I know parents have also talked to me about the onboarding of the teacher this year, but I think that's probably beyond the scope of this task force. Can I also just add that, when we looked at the capacity and enrollment for Hopkins, can we also just include other middle school as well? I mean, if Hopkins is not, I don't know if Hopkins is the ultimate solution. If it's not, I don't want to have to spend another month looking at other solutions. So if we can have the projection and capacity for all the middle school, that would be best.
Thank you.
I'd just like to I wouldn't want to say agree. I guess agree with Keith. It's just that now you know how it feels to be separated from other the MIP. The MIP is now experienced what the SDI has been separated from each other. We don't have the same resources. I mean, I'm seeing Vallejo Mills doing other stuff for Latino Heritage Month that Blake Howe isn't doing. So this is what we were trying to prevent with MIP getting separated, and that was what we were trying to fix with SDI being in different locations. And it makes me sad that that's how MIP at Blake Howe is feeling. They're not feeling that towards our own program, towards SDI or the actual school. It's the lack of resources that Acevedo now has that Blake Howe doesn't. And that is what we were trying to prevent from happening over the last couple of years. And sadly, it's happened. So, I mean, instead of trying to fix it, we added more issues to it. So yeah, hopefully we can deal with that as soon as possible so that doesn't keep growing.
I've got a slightly different observation, but I totally agree with what you're saying, Melissa. The observation is twofold. One is that as a parent of a pioneer class for MIP where we had no support at all, except for the parents ourselves, and as we incubated with Principal Diamond each generation of teachers for every class and then expanding to every class, the lack of unification now at the beginning, I understand where the new incoming parents of Blake Howe feel, but to me, it's a repeat of history that they will be on their own in essence, even though we've got a parent support group, because there's no cross-pollination, or really there isn't any forced cross-pollination, they will be on their own creating a program on their own. So that's the slight difference between where SDI had 3 existing classes trying to get economies of scale. We would love that, but that's right to see. And the second part of it, which I think is blunt and obvious, is that there's and there's nothing right or wrong about it, it's just the way it is that the district, at least for the MIP program, is trying to replicate in other sites. And so without any forced cross-pollination, we can't tell teachers that they have to go to a different school. I think that every time we start a new site, it's going to be like this if there is no ability to commingle the assets, so to speak.
Christy?
Yeah, I know that the purpose of this task force is to really look at unification and facilities, but I do think there is some misinformation around some of the messages that I've seen. So if anybody would like to talk to me outside of this committee, please feel free to do that, because I do have more information. And like I said, there's a lot of misinformation that is being out there that I can clarify.
Okay.
And even though Brian and I are both from Azaveda, I think it would be important to have a Blake Howe parent representative. And I don't know if they actually would have applied Dr. Rocha to the task force a year ago. So it's just something I'm thinking about, that it's probably good to have representation from that school as well.
That's a good idea. Thank you. We could look at or as the alternate. Okay, so thank you for the other thing about the enrollment and capacity for all junior highs. That's a great point, and make sure we have that. Okay, am I missing any other data sources that we need for the next time? Okay, so I'm going to summarize. So for the next time, if capacity reports more than likely won't be ready by October 5th, but as soon as they're ready, we're going to email those out to the committee. And then hopefully we can put together a meeting so we can review them and have some information depending on when we get it. Certainly our second meeting is November 2nd. So if it's, right before, we probably will just wait till November 2nd. So we'll wait to see when we get those. But I've got lists for enrollment reports, We're going to look at capacity and information around Lila, enrollment projections for the other junior highs, and just kind of revisiting the information and data sources we had the last time. And then the possibility of building a survey, I'll put that on the agenda as well. And then we can make a decision at that point and have some time to perhaps build some agenda questions. And then even if it's not finished on October 5th, we could probably work on that offline, and then the district can send it out if that's easier for folks, so that we have the capacity to send out surveys to the families, if that's the way we decide at the next meeting. Okay. So for the next time also, we'll make sure we have our Vallejo Mill teacher that's with us as well. And we'll look into the alternate for MIP. So we make sure that we have a person representing there as well.
And junior high.
Thank you, ma'am. And junior high. Yeah, I'll speak to Ms. Dorsey about that as well. Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, in addition to the enrollment and capacity report, I mean, for example, the Rick Glenker situation, can we have a status report on that? I mean, what room at Blakeau could be cleared up from that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a comment. Am I the only one that feels like the timeline is very much rush? I'm looking at the meeting times and the amount of data that needs to review and the people that are coming back in, and just the amount of questions and the time set aside for the meetings, that the January meeting with holidays and Thanksgiving break and everything may be too tight just to be able to relate information back and forth. So perhaps the January meeting to the board is too early. That's just my concern.
About that too. I was kind of unsure about that too, Patricia.
Well, let's do this. Why don't we do a status check at the October meeting? Because I feel that also that urgency, but I want to be respectful of this process, but we also want to make sure that families are aware of what are the possibilities for the coming year. And then we can have that discussion. So I can add that into the agenda of just really making sure, is this enough time to make this recommendation to the board? We can have that as an agenda item.
Yeah, I know that one of the questions that continuously literally daily is from the new parents of Vallejo Mill, and kind of, them just being new to campus and hearing about the possibility of having to move. So needing to meet with them and explain to them the whole process all over again. I know it's going to be timely for us. So would appreciate any consideration in terms of the time allowed.
Okay.
Along those same lines, how much will we be able to accomplish on October 5th without the information that we need, is my question.
Okay. Well, we'll have plenty of other information to also look at, though, because I'm going to bring in the junior high information and the Lila. But yes, I'll make an agenda item so we can have this discussion to see if it's enough time. And we may know that by then when we're getting the capacity reports, if we have not received them yet as well. And I want you all to you're right. I think this will be something for us to think about before the next time we meet. The whole communication loop, going back to that original discussion around surveying and all of that, and going back to the historical, like the request to unify. And maybe this is particularly important for SDI, from what I hear and from what I'm hearing here, that is still the goal, to unify. So if things are changing, we do have to have that frank discussion as well. Because for the message that's been given to us as staff and to the board is the request to unify. So we're hoping that we're on the right track with that. So just something to think about. Okay, so with that said, I want to thank you all for your participation this evening. I've got some great notes. Please feel free to reach out and email or call if you have any questions, but hopefully I will be in touch with you sooner, or any kind of update around the information around the capacity reports. Otherwise, we will see each other on October 5th.
Will this recording be posted on YouTube?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Zamora. Yes, he's in the chat, so he said yes. Mr. Zamora is our support person for tech, and so he said yes.
Great. And when it's out, is it possible to, I mean, to get a link, or should I just check the FUSD YouTube channel? Do you know the ETA for the recording? I just want to make sure that all, we can forward it to the
Yeah.
parent.
FUSD YouTube channel. He just wrote in the chat. So yes. Great. Thank you, Mr. Zamora. Okay,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.